Hey yo, what's good? Hey, it's me, Saul. Welcome to the video. Today, I'd like to rank all of the decks that I've learned to play in Yu-Gi-Oh! Dueling. So, for those of you who don't know, I stream over on Twitch, and over there I like to do a series called Let's Learn to Play, where, you guessed it, we learn to play brand new decks that I've never experienced before. Now, I try to be as genuine as possible, so I don't look at deck lists, I don't look at builds, I just get the cards and I learn to play them on stream with you guys. Now, what makes it super fun is I'm able to experience the game in so many different ways through so many different perspectives, either on my main account or on secondary accounts that I make specifically for the purpose of learning to play the deck. And I have an hour to 2 hours to play against people in the chat and try and learn as best I can what the deck does, how it functions, and whether or not I like it. That being said, we've done about 20. Some of them are on the channel listed for you to go watch. I have like just the VODs up for you to take part in, but I'd like to rank them. I'd like to tell you how much I enjoyed not just the deck itself, the learning to play it, but the experience of figuring out how the deck worked and whether or not I like the mechanics on top of that, right? So let's begin. Before we get started, just a quick reminder to like the video if you enjoy this kind of content. I'm trying to do a few more tier lists because I just want to see what you guys enjoy, how you're vibing with me. If you like my energy when I do this kind of thing, I'll do more of it, right? So let me know with that like button and hit subscribe. If you're not part of the family yet, you are welcome. I love you. Let's go. Amazons. Now, this was a bit later in my Let's Learn to Play career. Now, I've been playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel since launch. I took a break. I took a significant break actually, and only really came back last year around September, November. But Amazons was never a deck that I really learned to play. I know that they were meta at a point in time, and I played during that period, but I never played Amazons. So I had seen them firsthand, and I had been traumatized by them back in the day, and now they're just not really a threat. They're considered a nice free-to-play option, but not one that would do crazy things for you. So I tried out the deck, and it was interesting to figure. I kind of had an idea because, like I said, I played against them back in the day, and it's not that difficult to pick up what they do. It's just what they do isn't that crazy. Banishing your opponent's monsters is cool, it's fun and all, but it just feels kind of narrow, right? Just banishing all the monsters, and it's very heavily reliant on back row. I found that I was only really doing well with this deck once I threw in like more trap cards, and I'm not a trap card kind of guy. I want to run up to you and kick you in the nuts, right? I don't want to throw traps at you, like set a trap for you to fall into in the middle of the street. Like, no, I want to punch you. So it didn't really tickle my fancy particularly. Its individual gimmick just wasn't enough to sink me in, primarily because without the trap card, if you don't have the trap card or princess at your disposal, it's not doing a crazy amount. Also, because princess summon things in defense position, it makes the deck less offensive than I would like it to be. So I think we're going to start out by putting this deck at C tier. Yeah, I just remember not being particularly impressed by the deck when I learned to play it. So yeah. Next is Cyber Dragons, and I was very surprised by this deck. I was very surprised when I learned to play Cyber Dragons because we've all seen what Cyber Dragons do. They're disgusting, right? They can pop off and combo off and do all sorts of just terrible, horrible things. Think of the children, right? But like, hear me out. It is when you're the one doing it, like when you're holding those cards, you hear the anime music in your head, you're having a good time, you're popping off your top deck and core. Like, it feels good. It feels good, but it also feels much in the same way that Amazons were very reliant on spells and traps. It also has that issue, but at least those spells and traps are from its own archetype. It feels like it's all one coherent strategy rather than just random crap that you just threw together to form a breathing deck. Right now, this deck has more traps and spells than monsters in it, which is why I wouldn't put it any higher than B, but it is very good. It was very fun to play, but it wasn't fun for the people who played against me, right? I feel like if I'm thinking back to the experience, everyone was happy to see me learn and figure out like the right way to go about things, the right cards to put into the deck and everything, which was very fun. But I like to play with members of the community. I like to go back and forth. I'm not an OTK kind of person. That's not really my style, photons aside. So this deck just didn't really do it for me in that way. Bro, I hated Cyber Dogs. I hate, this was probably the worst. I just didn't get it. It just wasn't fun. I was not enjoying. Even when I got feedback from the community, people told me, oh, try this card, try this. Oh, you're doing it wrong. No, you're doing it wrong. I hate this deck. I hate this deck. Right? Like, it's just not fun for me to play. I wasn't having a good time it's combos, if you can call it. They're just so convoluted. The amount of cards you need for the fusion summons are ridiculous. Hard pass from me. Now I want to tell you a tale. I want to tell you a story of the most goated deck to ever exist in Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. You can take away my left pinky toe, I will die on this hill, right? Like this deck is so fun, bro. This was the first deck I ever learned to play on Twitch. Fun fact, this was one of my first, this was kind of the deck that almost set off what my Twitch identity is today, and like the traction that we currently have going, because learning to play this deck was just such an experience. There were so many people who were like, oh wait, what's this? This is a cool free to play deck, it's really fun, and like it does a lot of things, but the key factor is it doesn't do all of them well. So it's a rogue strategy that was very fun to try and navigate and make good, but also because it's a rogue strategy, there's no best way to do it. So I could try out all sorts of different crazy things. I tried out the earthquake method, I tried going I made a Neos fusion route. Like there were just a bunch of different things that I got to do, and it was very, very fun to try out different cards and strategies and techs, and just this is one of my favorite decks overall, not just that I've learned to play. Like this became one of my favorite decks in dueling, so S tier. Dream Mirrors were, they didn't hit the way that people wanted them to. They didn't make that kind of splash that people, well, not even were expecting. No one expected them to be good because their gimmick is weird, but if anything, that's probably why I liked them so much. The stream where I got to do, I think this was actually the most recent one that we did, and it was just a very fun time all around. Kind of, I figured the deck out as I was playing it, right? Because you're switching the field spells and you're switching from the light to the dark monsters, and like I got to make a bunch of funny jokes about racism. That was a stupid sentence, but anyway, it was a fun time. It was a fun time, right? I like weird gimmicks. I like getting to try different things and getting wins with that weird gimmick and trying just like, okay, what do I put in the deck to make it better? How do I make this? Well, you can't really make it faster, but like just understanding what I'm supposed to be doing, like figuring out, okay, so I basically have 6 turns to figure out what I'm doing. Oh wait, this card does something that I had no idea that it did. That's so freaking cool. Oh wait, I just beat a meta deck using it was just fun. It was just a hype time all around. I had fun playing against members of the community, and rogue decks are just always more fun to play against them because like they're having fun, you know, I'm having fun. It's just a good time all around. Element Sabers was an S tier experience. It's also just my top 10. It's one of my favorite decks. I feel like whenever I enjoy learning a deck on Twitch, it becomes one of my favorite decks. Well, not always, to be fair. If anything, there was a deck that I learned, and I'll get to it later, that I learned to play it, and it made me like it less, even though I still respect it overall. But Element Sabers was just a surprising one. I built, I got all of the cards to play Thunder Dragons, and while I was doing that, I ended up getting all the Element Saber cards that I needed to make a deck, and I thought, you know what, have at ye, let's have fun with it. I jumped in head first, and it was a fun time. Like it was just surprising, like Molehu being able to flip cards face down, just basically a quick play Book of Moon, and then filling up my graveyard to boost up my attack, and then I can change my attributes, you know, summon a Levianeer or summon, you know, a Chaos Patrol, just so many different things that you can do, and having all these different effects that the monsters have, you know, Lapuli being able to negate spells and traps, the little brown girl being that sounded, oh no, she can summon monsters back from the grave. Like, it was just fun, and then you add XYZ summoning on top of that, and the fact that the field spell will boost up your attack of all of your monsters, not just the Element Sabers, and then you consider the give and take of the deck. I don't like, how do I put this? I like being the underdog because I was born into a world of anime, right? Like it is, I will always root for the underdog. I am the main character of this. So if you give me an inherent disadvantage, I feel like the nine-tailed fox of this deck is the field spell because it gives you immense power, but the disadvantage is it takes away your battle phase on the next turn, right? Like it just skips it completely. So you're searching out the deck, but then you have to be strategic with how you do it. Okay, am I going to kill you this turn? What do I set up? It just, it makes you think, and I like to do that because I don't do it often, right? So it just feels good. That being said, you can have interesting mechanics that go too far. I did not enjoy FAs. I did not like learning FAs because I feel like they're a deck that I want to give another shake. I want to give FAs another chance at some point because like it just was not clicking. I have all of the FA cards from when I built Harpies on a secondary account, and it just, FA Hang on Mac was a thing, you know, with level augmentation, but FAs on their own were never really a thing, and I see why, because The whole gimmick of the level addition and reduction. What happens if you get Book of Moon? I mean, yes, they get cool effects if they're able to get their level high enough, but like, it's doing it the natural way using the FA cards. There's something there. No, I'm gonna raise this. There's something there, and I can feel it in my bones, right? I didn't hate it. I saw it in my inner eye could recognize the potential not to be good, mind you, but to have fun. Right? And I can respect that. I can respect that. It's just, while I was playing it in the time frame that I have, it just never really clicked for me. I got what I was supposed to be doing, I just didn't like doing it. Fire Kings was one of the most hyped up decks. Fun story, fun fact. You know how the Fire King structure deck is what? Like, you go into it twice, that costs you what, like $10 maybe? I spent like $100. I spent so much money trying to build this deck, and let me tell you why. I didn't lose my main account, but I lost access to my main account on Steam. Luckily, I had a data transfer save, so I was able to put that account on my cell phone, but I didn't know that at the time. I thought that my main account was gone, and I was like, oh, but I was in the middle of building Fire Kings. We have the Let's Learn to Play, because I would set community goals, right? And the community had reached the goal to have Fire Kings, Let's Learn to Play Fire Kings, right? I'm like, I need the deck. So I built a secondary account, which I took a secondary account which I'd already built Harpies on, connected it to my Steam, so that was my new account that's on Steam, and it's still the same secondary account that I'm using. And I was like, you know what, screw it. I went in for the Fire King box, and then I spent money. I spent my cash dollars to try and get Arvada. I didn't get Arvada, and then I also realized that I had my main account back where I had already built Fire Kings on my phone, and I'm dumb and it hurts. But regardless, the money aside, it is shocking to me how different the experience of playing Fire Kings was than I expected it to be. Like, I had never... This was again one of the relatively early on ones that I did, and so I wasn't that immersed in my game knowledge. I knew of Fire Kings, I knew that like they had the ability to destroy cards, but I didn't know that they had a reputation for being a stall deck at the time. I thought that they were, destroying their opponent's cards repeatedly in a cycle and going on the offensive, just clapping heads, cracking skulls and everything. And I find out that no, this is a relatively, like, you take it turn by turn, you pace yourself, you bait out the effects, you wipe their field a couple of times, and then you go in for a game, right? Like, you take your time with it. It's a patient strategy. So that's not, I wasn't expecting it to be so passive. So this is a deck that I expected to be in my top 5 favorite decks, and I think the card art is so fire. I love it. And I mean, the strategy of the deck isn't bad. I kind of enjoy that. After I got used to it, this was the first time I ever used Battling Boxer Veil. I kind of got used to relying on my hand traps and everything, and like pacing games out and everything. And it wasn't my play style per se, but it was something that I could definitely enjoy, something that I could definitely respect. So yeah, A tier. Remember how I said Digital Bugs was the first Let's Learn to Play we ever did? That was a lie. Gearges was the first Let's Learn to Play we ever did, but I did it by myself. This was before I decided that I wanted to do them on Twitch. So I did like an hour-long video where I tried to figure out how to play Gearges on my ones, and it was a painful experience. It was a funny and fun experience, and to be fair, without the Gearges video, we would not have done any of these. Without me playtesting and figuring out how I would like to go about learning to play these new decks, none of these would have happened. So it kind of started it all. It got the ball rolling just in the most goofy of ways, right? Because it was so unfocused and so unconcentrated in how I went about it. But it was a fun time. I enjoyed the deck. I like the gimmick of flipping yourself face down, but I didn't realize that there was a division between Geargias and Geargianos and like all these different things, and so certain effects wouldn't work with certain cards even though they're technically like the same family but not the same archetype. So I found it to be very weird. But also, Gear Gigan X looks like a Megazord, and so I'm gonna leave you in B because I think that's cool. Gravekeepers was one of the most fun decks I learned to play on Twitch, right? Not even the deck itself. I think Gravekeepers are fine. I walked into that Twitch stream with a 30 card deck because I genuinely didn't know what cards were good and what cards weren't. So this was one of the most like sit down, come to Jesus moments where like me and the people in chat were like going through and card by card. Okay, nope, that doesn't, you only need that at 2, maybe 3. Okay, take that out, maybe we put this in, let's change the number of this. It was so much fun. And then figuring out the spells and traps and the ratios and everything. Like, I'll be honest, I don't remember how to play. I don't remember how to play Gravekeepers. All I remember is having fun with you guys and just enjoying myself in the chat and like seeing everyone's ideas. Because there were so many people who had different opinions, and so it was like, no, you should do it this way, no, do it that way, and we just kept going back and forth. And I just remember just being like, this is what I want to do. Like, I'm having fun with my friends. I love I love being a content creator. I want to do more of this, right? So that was one of that one has pleasant memories in my heart, right? I had fun, and I remember that more than the deck itself, but that's enough to put you at A. Heretics confused me, then they surprised me, right? Nick, a member of my community, one of the OG members of my community, Nick, he loved Heretics, or at least he was very avid when he talked about them, and so he was actually the reason that I decided to do Heretics. Let's learn to play Heretics. It was one of the first decks that I learned to play, and I didn't know what to expect. The idea of Heretics. So for those of you who don't know, my first real deck that I ever played was Boojins, right? Like the first archetype that I put together and made a deck around and cogged with was Boojins. But when I was trying to decide what deck to do that with, most people don't know this, it was a choice between Boojins and Heretics, because I wanted to build the cards out of an archetype that I didn't already understand and that all seemed to synergize and work well together, and we didn't have a lot of the Heretic cards that we have today back then, and as a result of that I chose Boojins, because, well, not even as a result, like the Boojin cards confused me less than the Heretic cards, because like even though the Heretic cards kind of made sense, it's like, okay, this is a level 5, this is a level 6, how do I get you on the field, my guy? Like, what do I do, right? And then I saw like the not the Sun Dragon, the level 8 monster that has 0 attack, and I was like, this doesn't make sense to me. And so I put it down, and then I came back to it once I got their XYZ support, and I had a blast. As an XZ's, I probably wouldn't have liked it back then. Boojins work without having their XZ's toolkit, but I don't think Heretics would have been as fun without that, right? Heretics with their XZ's toolkit was so fun, right? Going into M7, going into a Tom, using their effects to tribute, and being kind of, I had to be creative, like, okay, I'll detach the normal monster to the graveyard, that way I can get it back with an M7, then summon it again, but then they can summon the monsters from the graveyard. Oh, it was just so fun. And then using Econ, going back against Nick with a mirror match, it was one of the, bro, I think this is just a video of me gushing about how much fun I have with you guys. Honestly, that was an immaculate experience, and it cemented this deck as one of my top 10s. Honestly, it was that fun. Only problem is I don't have, it might have ended up being a top 5, but I don't have all of the cards. I have all the cards, but I don't have enough copies of all the cards, which kind of hindered my ability. But even with that shortcoming, amazing experience. 10 out of 10 would recommend to a friend, but only for fun. Magician Girls was, I'll be honest, I remember what the deck does, but I don't remember the stream that well. I just remember that, like, so I went the Magicalized Fusion route, you know, trying to stall into, you know, making the big guy, the tall guy, the 4,500 quintet magician. And so people were trying to tell me different routes you can go about doing it, and I have members of the community who love to play the deck, like Axel plays the deck, and it was interesting, but it feels very stally in my opinion. I don't remember loving it. Like the very fact that I'm struggling to remember how things went down, it just wasn't a memorable experience to me. So the Magician Girls just don't hit. I like that they're colorful. I like that they're not waifus. They're not. Chocolate might be a waifu, but no, there's a baby in that archetype. Scrap that. It's just not for me, Chief. It's just not the kind of deck I like to play. Melfi's was extremely fun. They weren't good. They were not good, but I got to use Ronin Raccoon. A tier. I got to use Ronin Raccoon Sandayu. I ended up using Ronin Raccoon more than I used the Melfi cards themselves. Funnily enough, I enjoyed that stream. I remember enjoying that stream, and that's enough for me to put it at A tier. People had been asking for Melfi just because, like, they're cute. Everyone loves the Melfi archetype. It was just a fun time to be had, if I do say so myself. Now, this may surprise some people, but I'm an Onomat player to an extent, and I'm an Onomat player because of this stream, right? Not even because of I'm gonna put this in S tier, not even because of how well the stream itself went, but because of the impact the stream had on my overall playstyle. Because I had never played Onomats before, but I had all of the cards, because when I was going in for the Boojin monsters, right, Tsukuyomi had come out, and I got basically all of the cards that I needed for Onomats before I got the cards that I needed for Boojins. And then on top of that, I went into the Photon box, which meant that I had Head and I had Go Glove. So I thought, hey, why not? And I had at it. It was a very fun experience. Like, it just felt very versatile. I know people will complain nowadays and say that, like, it's linear, but this was back when it was still relatively new. It felt fresh. It felt like I had a toolbox at my disposal, like a real toolbox for the first time. And it just felt amazing, right? Because, like, okay, in this situation, maybe I make a ranked rank 6, but oh, maybe I need this monster. It felt like Ben 10 picking what alien he needed out of the Omnitrix, right? Like, okay, what would best suit this situation and going for it. And it's just a very colorful strategy. The level manipulation that you can do, like you can throw basically any Xyz monster you want in there. Now there's obviously, this is a tier 1 deck right now. It might not be when you're watching the video, but right now it's a tier 1 deck, which means that there is a best way to play it. But I mean, I care about that sometimes. If I'm trying to be competitive, I care about that, but like fun comes first, my G. So I've had a lot of fun with Automats, and I did enjoy that stream. Back then people didn't hate the deck. It wasn't that great, to be honest. So everyone was on board with it. We had a great time. So yeah. Photons go in C tier. You might be surprised, because if you look at Photons now, you could tell from my channel that I like Photons. You can tell from talking to me that I enjoy the Photon archetype. I hated the Photon stream. I don't even think is that stream listed anywhere? Did I post that stream? I don't even know if I posted that VOD on YouTube. I might have, but I hated that stream. I didn't enjoy myself in the slightest. I don't even know if you can find that stream anywhere anymore, because like, I don't like OTK decks. I'm not an OTK player. I like interacting with my opponent and like going through and playing through. And I just kept on OTKing everyone in chat. So all of the duels ended up lasting like 2 to 4 turns. So I wasn't getting to have fun with like the community. It was just like, boom, I win, or boom, you won. And it was very ham-fisted. It wasn't until I made Photons 101 that I actually started to enjoy Photons. Because to make a 101 series, I have to put in hours of playtime. Like with the Let's Learn to Play, I put in 2 hours to try and learn the deck and get what it's all about. Well, 1 to 2 hours, right? With the 101 series, let me give you an example. When I did Bujin's 101, I had 75 gigabytes of Bujin footage, and I bear in mind, I'm only clipping and keeping the duels that have something that I want to use in a video. That doesn't even account for all the time that I spent doing regularly. Like it was days worth, hours and hours of duels, hours of time spent. So I did that with Photons, and in doing that, I just learned to love the deck. To be honest, what triggered the initial transition was Paludynamo. Starlink's Paludynamo is my favorite card art in the game. I love it so freaking much, and it works super. One of the only decks that it really fits in is Photons. And so I learned the deck, and I had a blast. I'll be honest. It was a really fun experience, and their designs are really cool. And yes, it's an OTK deck, but depending on how you play it, it's not as linear as people say. It is very linear. But like, for instance, if you don't play completely aggressive, let's say you keep one card in your hand and you top deck, then you can go through the cycle one more time. That I'm not defending the deck and saying that the cards that it has are good. I'm just saying like it was more than I gave it credit for when I first looked at it. I had games where I was able to use my extra deck to go into like Utopia or something like that, or where I used my banishes in creative ways, or I used Galaxy Eyes' effect in a creative way. They tried to negate it and they couldn't. Just a number of things that happened. I even threw in the Neo Galaxy Eyes every now and then, but that didn't come from learning to play the deck on Twitch. That came from learning, well, not learning, from playing the deck to make a guide for it on YouTube. So that love came later on. The stream itself, C tier. That was a long story to explain a very simple concept, and I'm sorry. Sub-terrors. If you watch this video the day it comes out, you don't know what this is about. You don't know what this is about. Now I don't throw this term around lightly. Actually, yes, I do. Sub-Terrors is one of my favorite decks now. I didn't used to know anything about it. People had told me to play it. Nick told me to play it. People had told me that like it doesn't have all of its support, and I've looked into it and it doesn't. But I enjoyed playing this deck so freaking much. I enjoyed it so much. I'm probably gonna do a 101 series about it. Don't quote me on that because I have a busy schedule. But I liked it that much, right? Now you will see the process by which I learned to play the deck. I don't want to spoil it for you, but yeah, just know that I really like Sub-Terrors. Anime Craze, Axel, Queen, so many members of the community who play Super Heavy Samurai, and it was just fun learning from them, seeing their experiences, taking that into account for myself. I ended up really enjoying the deck. I remember enjoying that stream profusely. Can you profusely enjoy something? You can now, because I just said it, right? Like it was a fun time all around. Super Heavy Samurai, I feel like I enjoy learning rogue decks the most because they tend to have the most fun gimmicks to them. Like take into account, for instance, the next deck. TG's technically a rogue deck, but a high tier rogue deck. I didn't enjoy this. I did not enjoy learning to play TG's at all. I don't like synchro summoning, so I don't like TG's. I don't like math, right? I'm bad at it. So it was just I see what they do. I built the deck for a challenge. Can I build TGs in 1 week? And I had it, and I was like, you know what? Let's learn to play TGs. And I just remember everyone was really supportive. I won a couple duels with it, but I mostly lost because I can't count properly, and you feel bad for me later. Thunder Dragons get a lot of hate, but I had fun. I had a lot of fun playing Thunder Dragons. I really enjoyed myself. It was, again, I got all of the cards for it, and it was an experience. I understand why people love them as much as they do. I understand why they've been relevant for as long as they have. They are a powerful deck, a force to be reckoned with even. Yeah, I think that's a good placement for you. I'll put you in low A. You're better than B. It was a fun deck to learn to play. It's not a deck that I play anymore, surprisingly enough. I have all the cards for it, but I'm not a Thunder Dragon player. The stream kind of gave me, there were a lot of, I kept on getting confused about the card effects, but it's an XYZ deck. Like, I love XYZ summoning. I'm gonna do it. I had fun with it. Triamids were either an A or an S tier experience. I remember, I know what Triamids do now to a T. I know the deck extremely well as a result of the stream. Problem is, I don't remember the stream as well. I know that I had fun. I remember enjoying myself with the community, playing a lot of duels, and just like realizing how good the deck was very fun to me. That being said though, I'm gonna put it in A just because for me to still remember perfectly how to play a Triamid deck, it must have hit, right? For it to have made that much of an indent in my cerebral core. Is that where thoughts go? Yes. Anyway, I don't like water XYZs. I didn't have fun. I don't know what to tell you. Do I have a reason? There was a lot of back row. Didn't really like that. The skill is very unique, and I think that that's so cool that they have such a unique skill, a very well thought out skill for them. It's not overpowered. It's very balanced. It just wasn't fun for me. It wasn't fun for me to sit on back row, negating my opponent's graveyard, yada. Like, it didn't hit. I don't like it. And last up is Yosenju's. Now, I loved this stream. I feel like this was one of my most, this might have been one of my favorite streams that we did. I'm putting it in B tier. The reason being, I'm not the one who learned to play Yosenju's. My girlfriend learned to play Yosenju's, and it was so much fun. Now, I don't have a Yosenju deck. Yosenju's are a deck that I've always wanted to play, but then she said she wanted to learn to play Duel Links, and she said she wanted to start with Yosenju's. And so I was like, well, there's no point in both of us building the deck. So she got the Yosenju deck, and it was so entertaining watching her piece it together and learning and having fun with. She played against Sean. I don't know if you know Sean, but I tried to check him out. He's one of my. He is one of the most fun streamers that you will meet, and he absolutely throttled her. He didn't care that she was new, and it was hilarious. It was so much fun. The VOD is actually on YouTube, and it's the most viewed VOD for the Let's Learn to Play series because I feel like it was just that fun to have her around. The only reason it's going in B is because I'm salty that I don't have a Yosenju deck of my own, but like realistically speaking, this would be a high S tier, but don't tell her that. And with that being said, these are all of the decks that I've learned to play as of yet. There will obviously be more because there's a lot of things that I don't know, and I don't even know all of the things that I don't know, and neither do you. You don't know what you don't know. Do you know that? That's wild. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you made it this far, again, please consider subscribing. I am me pretty much all of the time. Like the video if you enjoyed as well. It lets me know that you want to see more of this. I think that's everything you're supposed to say on YouTube. I'm mostly done. Have a wonderful day. You're beautiful, and goodbye.